Hello, my name is Madison Tringone. This is my digital media presentation. I decided to do this a little differently to get across as much information as I possibly can. So the Crawford reading discusses marginalized and minority groups, and the three concepts are digital divide, democracy, and self-identity. I'm going to save time and not read the definitions right off of the screen if you want to pause to read them. But the digital divide is going to be discussed in both the Crawford and Talgemein concepts and readings as a whole because it takes place in North Korea and in the marginalized groups. So the Talmage concepts and reading focus on North Korea and their digital divide. North Korea has a two-tiered system where the trusted elite can go on the internet and have freedom, but regular civilians cannot, which will be deep dived later. They also have very high security, and the system that they use for their surveillance is called Red Star. So both North Korea and these marginalized groups are facing digital divides that are similar but also different. In North Korea, their digital divide has a lot of ethical concerns, including their just lack of freedom of expression and censorship, lack of privacy, and they are in severe isolation and have been for many, many years. Regular civilians are not allowed to access the internet unless they are being monitored. So for these marginalized groups, which are low-income communities and minority groups, they are not only at higher risk of having their data stolen just because they have such unprotected internet access, but they have to link their home routers together in some communities to try to get neighborhood-wide internet access. I know this is a very brief outline of North Korea's timeline. In the 1960s, South Korea separated themselves from North Korea, achieving democracy, and North Korea began its isolating and just unjust lifestyle. And now it's gotten to the point where, yes, 50 to 80% of adults have phones, but they are so closed off from real life because the government is monitoring every little thing they do and ensuring what is and what isn't being shared. In just a few minutes, I'm going to play this video, but I just wanted to show this slide to show the newspaper and social media, how these play into affect what is shared when regards to poverty and data and things like that, and how social media is a easy way for your data to just be stolen because you're supposed to trust these sites. My last slide before getting to my videos discusses internet poverty, which is one of the main things that I kind of got out of the Crawford reading. So there are 1.4 billion people in internet poverty, and internet poverty can be eradicated faster than regular poverty if the prices of internet were just lowered. The rest of the information on these slides I discuss in the next part of the video. This next part of the video is going to discuss internet poverty along with the Crawford concepts and the cause and effect and solutions of internet poverty.
Imagine that you've been unemployed and seeking work for months. Government benefit programs have helped you cover rent, utilities, and food, but you're barely getting by. Finally, you hear back about a job application. You receive your first paycheck in months, and things seem to be turning around, but there's a catch. Your new job pays just enough to disqualify you from the benefit programs, and not enough to cover the same costs. To make things worse, you have to pay for transportation to work and childcare while you're at the office. Somehow, you have less money now than when you were unemployed. Economists call this demoralizing situation the welfare trap, one of the many different poverty traps affecting millions of people around the world. Poverty traps are economic and environmental circumstances that reinforce themselves, perpetuating poverty for generations. Some poverty traps are tied to an individual's circumstances, like a lack of access to healthy food or education. Others can affect entire nations, such as cycles of corrupt government or climate change. But the cruel irony of welfare traps in particular is that they stem from the very policies designed to battle poverty. Policy is designed to ensure aid goes to those who need it most. But it also means people lose access as soon as they earn more than the qualification threshold, and when less people take on new jobs, the economy slows down, keeping people in poverty and potentially pushing people on the cusp of poverty over the edge. So how can we redesign benefits in a way that doesn't penalize people for working? Some allow people to continue receiving benefits for a given period after finding a job, while others phase out benefits gradually as income increases. These policies still remove some financial incentive to work, but the risk of a welfare trap is lower. Other governments provide benefits like education, childcare, or medical care. A universal basic income would provide a fixed benefit to all members of society, regardless of wealth or employment status. This is the only known policy that could entirely remove welfare traps, since any earned wages would supplement the benefit rather than replace it. Basic income might prevent people from falling into poverty in the first place.
The Crawford article, which discusses the digital divide and democracy within minority groups and marginalized communities, discusses also how a lack of internet access is affecting them and groups who are in poverty, along with the fact that these groups are subject to getting their data stolen or lost because they don't have a way to protect themselves and they have such little information about the internet as is. Now I'm going to be discussing North Korea and their digital divide, along with the Talmage concepts and the history kind of North Korea as a whole. Also, I want to apologize that this video is a little over the 8-minute mark. I just wanted to read through my slides, but technically if I didn't do that and just added the videos in, it would have been like 8 minutes, so I just wanted to apologize. Starting off with the internet system that North Korea uses, which was also discussed in the Talmage article, Red Star, also called the Kwangmong Internet. The internet is mainly used by the elites.
Rural folks in general wouldn't have the means to access it. As for the regular old global internet, you have to be an elite to access that, or at least a very important person such as a leading scientist or state-sponsored hacker. That fake news is the news. North Korea only allows us to see what they want us to see. What if North Koreans could go online and find out the truth? That would be dangerous for the leaders and their great fictional narrative, which is why a North Korean citizen can get executed for merely using an internet-connected device. Imagine if North Koreans went online and watched international news for a few minutes, it would blow them away. It would be akin to realizing you don't have a physical body and you're just a brain in a vat.
Now let's discuss how the internet works. So the way North Korean internet works is it is monitored by someone at all times. And like talked about in the Talmage article, it shares a 2-tiered system, which allows the trusted elite to go on the internet with as much freedom as they'd really like. But regular civilians are sealed off from the outside world and are not allowed to see what's going on. As we know, North Korea is in a very strict dictatorship that obviously experiences a lot of ethical concerns, including these random killings, lack of freedom of expression and speech, inhumane torture, prison camps, and just the lack of overall information that they are allowed to receive. Everything is strategic and fake. Now that I've given a little background on the internet, I want to talk about Kim Jong-un, who is the leader. He is the 3rd generation. He takes after his father and his grandfather, and he has created the most strict dictatorship yet.
He inherited the world's most isolated country, where the people have no internet, and the state has almost total control on any information coming in or out. These are pictures Kim Jong-un doesn't want the world to see.
Since it is illegal for immigration or emigration from North Korea, there are people who go into North Korea and illegally film these clips, and they have people on the inside that send them to the outside who risk their lives every single day to get this footage out to the mainstream media.
The way North Korean regime keeps the regime going, one of the reasons is fear tactics.
In North Korea, it's not only the person who commits the crime that is punished. Often their whole family will be arrested for guilt by association.
Our footage is forcing North Korea to acknowledge the hardship that their people face. The authorities don't like it at all. Because if the truth gets out, it would put Kim Jong-un's power under threat.
Behind closed doors, even members of the North Korean elite have voiced unhappiness with the regime.
So this 2-tiered system that the Talmage reading talks about is when the trusted elite can go on the internet, but regular civilians cannot. But it's gotten to the point where the elite even feel like they have no rights.
5 years ago, cell phones arrived in North Korea. The undercover footage shows dozens of people lining up to buy SIM cards. The phones can only make calls inside North Korea, but they can be modified to call outside the country. A very serious crime.
So the only way for Kim Jong-un to hold on to power is through a reign of terror.
Unfortunately, every piece of media that the people of North Korea receive is filtered with propaganda, and it's all centering around how great the Kim family is, how bad America is, and it gives no real information about what's actually going on. So many people don't even have access to internet. They don't even know what it is because that's never been an option for them. This concludes my digital media presentation. Thank you so much for watching.